Hey there folks, we're diving into the world of mountain bike suspension as normal. We're going to take a close look at the EXT Arma coil shock. Join me as we peel back the layers of this Italian masterpiece and uncover why it sets itself apart from all the other shocks on the market. Let's get acquainted with the EXT Arma, a coil shock that's all about tackling the downhills with finesse. Now the Arma is not the lightest kid on the block, but it only weighs 14 ounces. But trust me, it's worth every single gram. This thing is built to last, like your grandma's famous lasagna. Sure, when it comes to external adjustments, some might say, it's a little on the minimalist side, but hey, sometimes less is more, right? With 14 clicks of low speed compression and 9 clicks of hydraulic bottom out, the Arma packs a punch where it counts. With only 9 clicks of external rebound, you have to count on the tune from EXT to get your rebound correct. Now every time you order an Arma, it takes 2 to 3 weeks because each shock is fine-tuned to match your weight and your bike's specifications, giving you a ride experience that's personalized as your morning coffee order. And here's the kicker, if you're not quite satisfied with how you're dialed in, you can always send it back for some extra fine-tuning. It's like having your own personal suspension guru on speed dial. Picture this, a beefy 14mm stanchion that's as sturdy as a medieval castle wall. That means business. Now the 14mm stanchion is made out of aluminum and it's not as strong as steel, but EXT assured me that this shock is okay on any bike on the market, and we're gonna test it on the most shock destroying bike there is. The unique bump stop is made out of cork on the EXT Arma, and it's a lot thinner than most other bump stops on the market. With a lot of motocross experience, there's probably good reason behind this. And bushings, oh boy, don't get me started. EXT has some proprietary looking DU bushings. Maybe they're smoother than that fresh jar of Nutella, ensuring the ride is as smooth as silk. But really, these things don't really matter. I have to remove them to put them on my bike. EXT claims they have the lightest coil springs on the market. I can't verify this because I don't have one and didn't lay it. I'm gonna use a spring dex on the EXT Arma because I have like 9 more shocks to buy this summer, and this will basically help me fine tune my sag and find my perfect coil spring because I am kind of a coil shock noob. If you're not aware of the spring dex, it's a basic steel spring that's a little bit progressive towards the end of the stroke. It has a little plastic doodah on the bottom of the shock that allows you to adjust the spring rate. Perfect for a coil shock beginner so you don't need to buy multiple coils. Before installing any new shock on your bike, it's super important to cycle it through the stroke. Make sure you give it a couple pumps and nothing makes contact on the frame. As we can see, the EXT Arma bottom out bumper is super unique. And as you can see, this clevis, I purposely left it loose to explain to you why coil shocks break on specialized bikes. One loose bolt or hard bottom out on a weak coil shock, kiss your frame and shock goodbye. So all clear on this 230/65 shock, and I've got the spring dex on there, and oh boy, that spring dex really kills this masterpiece. But let's face it, it's function over form. You can't beat the spring dex. I'm sure they've got 100 patents on it, and you won't see these for 20 years from any other brand. So this isn't my first rodeo on an EXT Arma, and you really have to put some time into tuning this guy. My recommendation is take the rebound knob and crank it all the way clockwise, get on the bike and jump on it and see how it feels. Now, EXT suspension is different from all other brands because when you push it down in the parking lot, there's basically no difference between full fast and full slow. Essentially, you have to go ride the bike, bounce on it to feel the difference in rebound variation. Now, this is probably my biggest gripe with this shock. There's a plus and a minus on the shock rebound adjuster. When you move it to the plus setting, that is a slower rebound. When you move it to the minus setting, that is a faster rebound. It will throw you for a twist, but if you got my tip, you should be good. Same goes for the compression and the hydraulic bottom out on the EXT. You need to move it all the way clockwise or all the way counterclockwise. Go ride it and then ride it in the reverse order so you can feel the difference. It's very subtle and you have to ride it full close, full open, just to tell what it feels like. The hydraulic bottom mount is adjusted with a 12mm spanner. They do make a tool, but you're going to have to carry one or a wrench with you to make an adjustment. And I suggest bringing a notebook because this shock is super picky. Okay guys, so how does the EXT Arma ride? Well, let me tell you, it's an amazing experience. The shock is super responsive, it just feels alive. Similar to an air shock, as we can see how quickly that coil shock moves. And let me tell you, jumping, all your compromises of riding a coil shock are gone with the EXT Arma. It's absolutely amazing. Now this is the first aluminum stanchion coil shock that's been on my bike, so I was a little bit nervous here running the EXT Arma, but they did assure me that it's plenty strong and it will survive. So I went for some big hucks and got to at least 85% bottom out, and the shock survived and felt great. I suggest bracketing it on the same section of trail, just like Jordy from Fox tells you to do, and you will really be rewarded. The EXT is a phenomenal shock. Every click of rebound is usable. A very narrow range of rebound, but you can use full fast and full slow. Unheard of with any other suspension I've ever rode. Now let's talk about the damping inside of the Arma. It's absolutely phenomenal. It makes Fox look like a bunch of kids. The damping is so sophisticated, so sensitive, and so perfect. Italians do something special. This is why Fox bought out Marzocchi, because Marzocchi was going to take Fox out. To be fair, the Arma is $1,000. If Fox put an extra $300 into a DHX2, it would probably be just as good. The hydraulic bottom out feature on the Arma is absolutely epic, besides using a 12mm wrench. You can basically keep a softer spring on it. I had that thing all the way closed and it was giving me the perfect bottom out control. As we know, the Super Deluxe now comes with hydraulic bottom out, and it's a really epic adjustment. There is one compromise: it does make a squashy noise when you get into that part of the travel. My final runs were with a full slow rebound, hydraulic bottom out cranked all the way up, and low speed compression on like 10 clicks. The shock was still absolutely epic. I almost prefer it with the faster rebound because it just feels like an air shock. And if you don't jump and you don't send, don't worry about that, because the cross-country experience on the Arma is absolutely epic on an e-bike. Yeah, it doesn't have a climb switch, but if you're on an e-bike, why do you need a climb switch anyway? Here's the bottom line with the Arma: it's a world-class shock that feels very lively on the trail. Now, the downside of this shock, you cannot feel the adjustments between clicks, so it could potentially be a little bit difficult for some people to set up. To really understand what EXT can get you on the trail, you have to click the video on the screen to get the full picture.